Back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, where today we're looking at this lovely specimen here. And those are some amazing blooms. Now, its scientific name is Portulaca oleracea, and its specific variety is Rio Grande. Because, you got to get that Duran Duran action going on in the garden. Now, its common name is Purselane, and you may see it in the grocery store as Purselane, in fact. This plant is one of those specialty greens that you see in, like, Whole Paycheck. That's what I call Whole Foods. Or so forth and so on. It's in the family Portulacaceae, which means it's named for its entire family. Go figure. The word oleracea means vegetable or herbal, and the word Portulaca means little door, and then the addition of the aca, the aka part on the end, is a diminutive. So, and what that refers to, well, it refers to these seed capsules. The little cap on the top of the seed capsule there, you can see it above the stick of destiny, is the little door. Or a port. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, this plant is native to North Africa, the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent, but it is naturalized here. And the one you see in your lawn that, according to the herbicide companies, will attack your house, kill your kids, eat your pets, blah, blah, blah. That one is also Portulaca oleracea. However, it is a wild form. This is a form that has been cultivated. And no, that's not the wild form's flower color. The wild form is usually pink. And you'll see it in sandy soils or dry areas, and it is just as succulent and just as edible. In fact, if you dig one up carefully and then feed it fertilizer, it'll end up looking kind of like this, but the leaves are a little pointier. Now, it is a perennial in zones 10 through 11, probably 12, but 9 through 2, it's considered an annual. However, these large seed capsules disperse a lot of seeds, so it may come back in the most interesting places the next year. Win for everybody. It prefers a soil pH of 5.5 through 7.0. Its exposure is full sun, like full southern laser sun. It just scoffs at that. I mean, if you leave it dry for a while, it may get a little soggy, but it'll perk right back up with a drenching. I mean, it's a succulent. It's designed to survive this stuff. Anyway, its height can be 2 to 3 inches, and its width can be 12 to 18. And as you can see with our specimen here, clearly doing that. Now, this is in a 14-inch hanging basket with traditional potting soil, nothing special, and the cocoa fiber liner there, which in this particular style, I had to tie a string around the side to keep from bulging, because what will happen is the liner will bulge out here and then leak soil if I'm not careful. This Purselane has filled in amazingly for something that I randomly picked up off a distressed plant rack. Now, let's talk about its other names. Greater Purselane, Little Hogweed, Pusley, not to be confused with the lawn plant Florida Pusley, mind you. Florida Pusley is an entirely different species. You'll see it on the forage blog, actually, later. Porphyr, Verdolaga, that's a weird one, and Wild Portulaca. Its cousin, which is moss rose, is also Portulaca, but that one's commonly called Portulaca, and this one's called Purselane. You'll see that in the other video. Anyway, it likely reached North America in the pre-Columbian era and Europe by the 16th century. Neat. We don't know if it came there as a hitchhiker or was brought there intentionally. Sources vary greatly on that one. So I'm going to leave that one up in the air, honestly. The leaves are fully edible and are rich in vitamins A, C, and E. And these big chunky leaves, what you do is you twist them off. You want to try not to damage the stems. And you can chop them up a little bit, a pile of them, and then soak them in vinaigrette to get them to get some flavor, a little additional flavor, I should say, and add them raw to a salad. You eat these raw. I don't know. I've never tried to cook them, so I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a recipe out there on the internet because the Webernets be like that, but I would recommend raw so that you get the full nutrient benefit. They kind of taste like crunchy spinach or something like Malabar spinach. It's its own flavor, for the record. Well, anyway, as I mentioned, it reseeds freely, but the leaves can, it reseeds freely, but the seeds can actually be ground up into a sort of flower substitute. Again, the seeds are like dust, so I don't know how many of these little Portulaca here is things that you'd have to get just to make any usable amount of flour. So, bleh. I'd prefer get it for the leaves. Anyway, the bad news is that it is toxic to horses, dogs, and cats. However, Mischief has chewed on this one before, so he says bleh. I wouldn't advise leaving it out to let your pets chew on it, though. Anyway, pests of Purselane include slugs, Purselane sawfly, and leaf miner weevil. Now, in the test gardens, we do have a bit of a slug and snail population, but this is in a hanging basket, which is my way of saying F you, slimy, expletive, you know. However, in the ground, you can lower this by using, you can fight them off with diatomaceous earth, which looks like white flour, essentially, and you put it down and it basically abrades them to death. It's like death by a million paper cuts. Or beer traps. Little tiny cups filled with rot-gut beer that you can part with. They love, I guess, the yeast or something, and they pile in there, and they pickle, and they get drunk, and they die. It's like a mollusk frat party. Anyway, now, in terms of nutrition for Purselane, per singular cup of Purselane leaves, unchopped, they have 0.09 grams of protein. They have 15% of your daily allotment of vitamin C, 2% of your daily intake of calcium, 4% of your daily intake of iron, and 7% of your daily uptake of magnesium. Now, I was not able to find a verification for vitamins A and E, but most sources say it has it, so it must be in a fairly low amount, maybe? Either way, Purselane is a cheery plant that you should have in your garden, if only because of these pretty flowers. If you're a morning person, this is the plant for you, because this plant's flowers are usually spent by the evening, if not the early afternoon. It is photosensitive, much like its cousin moss rose, photosensitive, and it'll only bloom at certain times of the day. However, plant breeders are making varieties that are less photosensitive and are more likely to keep their blossoms open the whole day. But in the meanwhile, it is the best part. Well, okay, it's one of the best parts of going out in the garden in the morning. I mean, I'm not a morning person personally, but this plant, when I see it in full bloom, brightens my day in more than one manner of speech. I recommend it for your garden because it's super easy, and stems like this one dangling down here at the, I don't know if y'all can see that. Like this one, if you put it in water with a fish tank air pump going to it with an air stone, it may root in water. If it's touching the earth for long enough, it will most certainly root, and you can clone this plant and keep it alive for years and years and years as a technical forage food, but a cultivated forage food. Considering that the leaves are good for you and it's tolerant of southeastern laser sun, what's not to love? Now, before you ask, it comes in a number of colors. Yellow is not the only one. There are double flowers, ones with interesting calyxes. There's pink, there's red. I've seen every color you can think of. There are even bicolor ones. And I believe there's a weird double one where, like, the flowery bits are fluffy. So there's that to consider. There is pretty much a Purselane for every preference. So, with that said, I thank you all for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section. If you like this video, please hit like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And in the description for this video at the very end, there is a link to the forage blog. We will cover that Purselane thing later. And beyond that, thank you for watching again. As always, folks, keep them growing.